Steelers fans, stop everything you're doing right now because this is massive. What I'm about to tell you is going to shake this franchise to its core. We're talking about the end of an era, multiple beloved players walking out the door, and a complete organizational reset that nobody saw coming this fast. If you bleed black and gold, you need to hear every single word of this. Hit that subscribe button right now because we're bringing you Steelers news every single day, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Let's dive in. All right, so here's where we are. The Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the most storied franchises in NFL history, are staring down the barrel of something we haven't seen in decades. This isn't just about losing a game. This isn't just about one bad season. This is about the entire identity of this organization being stripped down and rebuilt from the ground up. And honestly, I don't know if the fan base is truly ready for what's about to happen. Let me take you back for a second. That wild card loss to the Texans still stings. You remember it. I remember it. Every single person in Steelers Nation remembers exactly where they were when that game slipped away. The frustration was palpable. You could feel it through the television screen. You could see it on the faces of the players. And deep down, most of us knew something had to change. We just didn't expect the changes to come this hard and this fast. And then the news dropped. Mike Tomlin, the man who had been the face of this franchise for nearly 2 decades, officially stepped down. Let that sink in for a moment. Mike Tomlin, the coach who never had a losing season, the coach who brought us a Super Bowl victory, the coach who embodied what it meant to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, he's gone. That alone would be enough to send shockwaves through the entire league. But that's just the beginning of this story. Because when you really look at this roster, when you really examine what's happening behind the scenes, you realize that this team is about to undergo a complete transformation. We're not talking about a few tweaks here and there. We're talking about a full-scale overhaul that's going to change everything we thought we knew about Pittsburgh Steelers football. Right now, as we speak, there are 25 players on this roster who are set to hit free agency. 25. Let that number sink in for a second. That's nearly half the roster potentially walking out the door. And while some of those names might not mean much to the casual fan, several of them are going to absolutely gut the diehards. Because according to multiple league insiders and reports coming out of Pittsburgh, at least 4 major contributors are essentially finished wearing the black and gold. And these aren't just role players. These are names that have meant something to this franchise. Let's start with the biggest and most controversial name on this list, Aaron Rodgers. Now look, I know what you're thinking. Rodgers is a future Hall of Famer. Rodgers is one of the most talented quarterbacks to ever play this game. And you're absolutely right. The arm talent is still there. Even at this stage of his career, Aaron Rodgers can make throws that most quarterbacks in the NFL can only dream about. The zip is still there. The accuracy on those intermediate routes is still elite. When he steps into the pocket and lets it fly, you can see flashes of the guy who won multiple MVP awards and terrorized defenses for years. But here's the reality that nobody wants to talk about. This season, his pocket presence completely fell off a cliff. And I don't say that to disrespect the man. I say it because the numbers don't lie. His average time to throw was the lowest of his entire career. Think about that for a second. In a career that spans nearly 2 decades, this was the season where he got the ball out of his hands the fastest. And that's not because the offense suddenly became more efficient. It's because he couldn't hold on to the ball anymore. The internal clock that made him so dangerous, that willingness to stand in there and let routes develop, it just wasn't there anymore. What did that mean for the offense? It meant checkdowns. Lots and lots of checkdowns. Running backs were catching passes left and right. The short game became the entire game plan. And look, on paper, some of those stats looked fine. But anyone who actually watched the games could tell you the truth. The offense felt capped. It felt limited. It felt like the Steelers were playing survival football instead of trying to actually win games. Every possession felt conservative. Every drive felt like they were just trying to avoid mistakes rather than make plays. And as much as it pains me to say this, losing Rodgers might actually be what this team needs. Sometimes you have to rip the bandage off. Sometimes you have to accept that the legend isn't the answer anymore. And Pittsburgh seems to have come to that conclusion. Whether Rodgers officially retires or simply doesn't return, the outcome is the same. He will not be the Steelers' quarterback moving forward. That chapter is closed. But the quarterback position isn't the only place where major changes are coming. Let's shift to the defensive side of the ball because there's some significant news there as well. Cole Holcomb, man, this one is tough to talk about because you can see the talent. You can see what he's capable of when he's healthy. The problem is that last part, when he's healthy. And unfortunately, this season proved that keeping him on the field has become nearly impossible. Injuries have just plagued this guy. Every time he seemed ready to get going, something else would pop up. And you can't rely on a player who can't stay on the field. It's as simple as that. But here's where it gets interesting. While Holcomb was dealing with injury after injury, there was a young player sitting on the bench, hungry for snaps, ready to prove himself. Peyton Wilson. And under the old regime, under Mike Tomlin, we all know how this would have played out. Veterans get the benefit of the doubt. Veterans get chance after chance. Young players wait their turn, sometimes for far too long, but with Tomlin gone, that entire philosophy might be changing. A youth movement could finally be coming to Pittsburgh. And if that's the case, Holcomb is the odd man out. The writing is on the wall. The Steelers need to see what they have in their young linebackers. They need to find out if these guys can actually play. And the only way to do that is to put them on the field and let them sink or swim. As a fan, I'm honestly okay with this move. It's time. It's past time. Let's see what the future holds. Now, let's talk about another defensive departure that really shouldn't surprise anyone who is paying attention. Jabril Peppers. And honestly, this situation tells you everything you need to know without me even having to explain it. The moment Kyle Duggar arrived mid-season, Peppers basically vanished from the defensive rotation. Poof. Gone. 1 minute he's a contributor, the next minute he's relegated to special teams duty. That's not an accident. That's not a coincidence. That's the coaching staff making a clear and decisive choice about who they trust more. And look, Duggar came in and made plays. He showed up, he competed, and he earned that spot. When you watch the film, you can see why the coaches made the switch. Duggar brought an energy and physicality that the defense needed. He made an immediate impact. And once that happened, there was no going back for Peppers. The writing was on the wall from the moment that trade went down. Everyone in the building knew it. Peppers knew it. And now it's official. But honestly, the departure that frustrates me the most isn't Rodgers. It isn't Holcomb. It isn't even Peppers. It's Adam Thielen. And let me tell you why this one bothers me so much. Adam Thielen is the perfect example of the old Steelers habit that has driven fans absolutely crazy for years. The obsession with trusting declining veterans over young players with legitimate upside. It's a pattern we've seen over and over again. And this season, it might have cost the team more than we even realize. Look at the numbers. Just look at them. 5 games, 11 catches, 117 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0. That's what Adam Thielen contributed to this offense. And meanwhile, Roman Wilson, a third-round pick who the organization invested significant draft capital in, barely saw the field. 9 snaps. 9. In an entire season, a young receiver with potential, with speed, with playmaking ability, got 9 snaps. How does that make any sense? How do you justify that decision? The Steelers needed juice. They needed speed. They needed someone who could stretch the field and create explosive plays. And instead of giving the young guy a chance, they went with nostalgia. They went with the veteran name. They chose experience over potential and got absolutely nothing in return. And you know what? Fans have been complaining about this for years. Every single season, we watch this team handcuff young talent while aging veterans get opportunity after opportunity. It's maddening. It's frustrating. And honestly, it's one of the reasons this franchise has been stuck in neutral for so long. But here's the silver lining. Here's the one piece of hope I can offer you. With Mike Tomlin gone, decisions like that should stop happening. The new regime, whoever takes over, has the opportunity to flip the script. They can prioritize youth. They can prioritize potential. They can finally start building for the future instead of clinging to the past. So what does all of this mean for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now? What's the big picture here? It means this roster is about to look completely different. Not just at quarterback, everywhere. Veterans are walking out the door. Young players are going to get opportunities they've been waiting for. And for the first time in a very long time, it feels like this organization is finally ready to hit the reset button instead of just patching holes and hoping for the best. I know that's scary. I know it's uncomfortable. Change is never easy, especially when you're talking about a franchise with this much history and tradition. The Pittsburgh Steelers are supposed to be stable. They're supposed to be consistent. They're not supposed to blow things up and start over. That's not how this organization operates. But sometimes, uncomfortable change is exactly what a team needs. Sometimes you have to tear it down before you can build it back up, and maybe, just maybe, this is the moment where the Steelers finally stop living in between eras. For too long, this team has been stuck in a weird middle ground. Not quite good enough to seriously compete for championships. Not quite bad enough to bottom out and get elite draft picks. Just floating in mediocrity, hoping that experience and coaching would somehow be enough. Well, it wasn't enough. And now, it's time to make a choice. It's time to pick a direction and commit to it fully. No more half measures. No more trying to compete with a roster that isn't built to win. This offseason is about accepting reality and building for the future. And honestly, I'm excited. Yeah, I'm nervous. Yeah, I'm sad to see some of these familiar faces leave. But I'm also excited about what could be coming. Young players getting chances, a new coaching philosophy, a franchise that's finally willing to evolve. That's something to look forward to. The next few months are going to be absolutely critical for this organization. Every decision matters. Every signing, every draft pick, every coaching hire is going to shape what this team looks like for years to come. And as fans, we need to pay attention. We need to stay engaged. We need to be ready for whatever comes next. Now, I want to hear from you, Steelers Nation. Which of these departures hurts the most? Is it Rodgers? Is it the idea of moving on from a future Hall of Fame quarterback? Is it Holcomb and what could have been? Is it Peppers and the way his time in Pittsburgh just fizzled out? Or is it Thielen and the frustration of watching young talent rot on the bench while veterans underperform? And here's another question. Which departure do you think actually helps the team move forward? Because not all of these moves are bad. Some of them might be exactly what Pittsburgh needs to get back on track. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know how you're feeling about the state of this franchise. If you made it this far, you're a real one. You're the type of fan this channel's built for. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this breakdown. Subscribe if you haven't already because we're covering every single piece of Steelers news that drops. And share this video with your fellow fans because everyone in Steelers Nation needs to know what's happening with this team. The era of stability is over. The era of change is just beginning. And we're going to be here covering every single moment of it. This is Steelers Nation, and I'll see you in the next one.